Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm gonna, kick us off today. And I see some familiar faces in the room and familiar Zoom names in the room. So welcome. And yes, please feel free to use the chat function today. I think everyone has access to the chat, right, Andrew? Thank you so much. And I want to make sure to thank the FPA, Latino Knowledge Circle, for hosting this panel discussion. And actually, no, not a discussion, it's a conversation with three incredible professionals today on money coaching. And so we're going to learn a lot about money coaching. We're going to learn a lot about their careers. We're going to learn about their advice around the differences between coaching, planning, counseling, financial therapy, all of that. And we have questions prepared, but we also want to make sure that this is a relevant and impactful session for you. So please enter your questions, comments, feedback. Feel free to use the emojis to show applause, to show agreement, to show disagreement maybe, right? Please use that chat because we want some interaction. Because as the moderator today, and I'm Phuong, I'll introduce myself in a second, I want to make sure that we get your questions and comments in the chat. So feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat if you'd like, and let us know where you're calling in from too. And so my name is Phuong Long. I'm an educator and certified financial planner, and I specialize in financial planning and sustainable investing for individuals and families across income and wealth spectrums. But today's not about me. It's about the three incredible professionals we have, and as well as all of you who are here today. And I'm so excited for this community to be together. And so I want to let the three folks we have on our panel introduce themselves. And we're going to start with Saundra Davis. Hi, Saundra.
Hey there. It is so good to be hanging out with you. And thank you for doing that whole elders first thing. This is not colored hair. It grows out of my head like this. I am Saundra Davis. I'm a master certified coach. I have a master's in financial planning. I'm the director of financial planning programs at Golden Gate University. And I've been in the coaching world since 2005. I learned very early that telling people what to do with their money really had very little impact on them actually doing what you tell them to do. And so I learned very quickly that I had to learn a different way, and coaching became that way. So here we are. I'm so glad to be with you all today. And I see Lewis. What's up, my brother? Lewis was my very first mentor in this field.
Thank you, Saundra. Okay, Leah, love to hear from you. Thank you for being here.
Yes, hi, I'm Leah Landaverde. I am a financial content creator and a financial coach. I run my own practice that I guess a collective. I have a master's and bachelor's degrees in finance and currently studying financial planning at the American College of Financial Services. I'm Salvadoreña, first gen, and I'm also based out of Dallas, Texas.
Thank you, Leah. And Deanna, how about you? Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. And thank you, Phuong and Saundra and Leah for being here. My name is Yanez. I'm part of the Latino Knowledge Circle, kind of like the behind the scenes, how we plan it out. And I'm also a money coach. I'm a certified financial planner and a registered life planner through the Kinder Institute. And I've been doing money coaching through all the colors for the past few years. I also have focused on creating community coaching, right? So that we are using community to also help people move along faster in their money changes. So I'm excited to be here and share about that.
Thanks, Deanna. Okay, so panelists, I'm going to ask questions for particular folks on the panel, but feel free to chime in as well if you'd like to respond to the question. So we're going to start with Saundra for this first question. How do you define coaching, and what training do you recommend for folks that are interested in becoming a financial coach?
Thank you. First, before we begin, may I invite us all to take a nice deep breath. Just take a moment. You can lower your gaze if it serves you. Just take a deep breath in and then let that go. Right? How do I define coaching? I will actually lean on our brother in the CFP world, Thomas Leonard, who is no longer with us, but he is actually the originator of coaching. There is a coaching profession today because of Thomas Leonard. He started the coaching profession, including being a founding member of the International Coach Federation, because his financial planning clients needed more than talks about money. And so when we think about, does coaching fit into financial planning? Does coaching fit into the work that we do? Coaching as a profession was started by a financial planner. And he started this profession because he understood that the clients he was working with were simply not able to navigate the other aspects of their lives in service of their financial goals. And a lot of us in the financial planning profession don't even realize the only reason there is a coaching profession is because of a financial planner. And so I think it's just really important to say that. Coaching is defined by many different things, but primarily coaching is a way of being with clients that helps them self-discover and navigate their own personal experience, aligning their goals with their vision and their values. And when we're working with clients to do that, the focus isn't on the professional advising the client. It is on the professional and the client co-creating the path forward, and then developing a plan on how does that person get there, understanding that the advisor is not the client's hero. The client is their own hero, perfectly capable and whole and able to do that which they say they want to do in order to get where they want to go. And so where this flies in the face of so many professions, and even the financial planning profession, we are magical, but we are not magicians, right? We cannot change another person's behavior. We cannot make anyone do anything. Anybody who's ever raised a teenager understands you can't make nobody do nothing. Okay. And so the more we can recognize and acknowledge that financial planning clients come to us with a host of experiences. Some of them are financial. All of them are the experience of their lives. And so by tuning into what their life is like for them from their seat, and holding them up as the experts in their own lives, rather than, oh, they come to me because I'm smart and I've got this and I've got that. Yes, you're smart. Yes, you're brilliant, all of that. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't meet them where they are. And that's the key for coaching. We meet clients where they are, not where we want them to be, not where we think they should be, not what we think that they should be doing in all of our wisdom and all of our degrees. So that's the what. The training aspect, I just want to highlight, and I am not unbiased here. I actually have a coach training program, so I want to be real clear. I have a bias. I didn't intend to start a coach training program, but none of the programs that were out there wanted to hold a standard, so I created one. That's really the bottom line. I want to distinguish between training and certification. There are many certifications that you test your knowledge and you get that certificate. You get that stamp. CFP is one of them, right? You take the test to demonstrate your knowledge. It doesn't necessarily mean you're a great practitioner. And so I'm inviting you to distinguish between training, really becoming a coach, and then demonstrating that knowledge. And there are many places. I have a program, we have financial coaching foundations. There are coaching schools all over this world, right? I went to Coach Training Institute. It was not the right fit for me because it didn't factor in that clients don't always know the right answer. And that was the rub for coaching school. So I would say there are multiple coach training programs. I encourage you to investigate what is it that you're trying to solve for. The main thing I would say is a program where you read a book and take a test is not going to serve you as well as a program that allows you to practice and learn and self-discover in the same way that your clients will.
Saundra, thank you so much. There's a lot there we want to unpack. And actually, we have a question from the audience. Luis Rosa, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Thank you, Phuong. Hi, Saundra. Good to see you. Thank you all for being here. And thank you for clarifying the difference between planning and coaching. I think that was just very well put together. It helps me understand where they may intersect and also just the key differences. One question I had for you was, does financial coaching include financial therapy, or is that a completely different field? Is there some synergy between the two, or is it one a subset of the other? How would you describe the relationship between those two?
So Luis, I know Phuong has that for later. Can you hold until we get to that question?
Absolutely.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Luis, you're absolutely following along, and that is a logical next question. And I'm gonna keep you in suspense a little bit while we go over another topic, because we're gonna come to that, because it can get confusing with the different types of financial coaching, counseling, planning, therapy. Yeah, and Luis Rosa is a financial planner, and so if it's confusing for Luis, then it may be confusing for the public as well. Okay, so let's get to the next question. But before I do, I want to ask Diana and Leah, do you want to add anything to what Saundra said?
I did want to add something, and that was beautiful. I just wanted to elaborate on something that Saundra said about how when you become a coach, it can't just be like, I read this and now I took this test. Because one of the big things about coaching that I've learned is that you can't take clients where you haven't been yourself. So us as coaches, me as a coach, I had to learn a lot about my own money things in order to be able to recognize, and so that I didn't end up putting them on my clients. As financial planners, we don't get that type of training. I'm a certified financial planner. I wasn't trained in the CFP program or in the advisory that I worked at to question my own beliefs around money. But as a coach, I was. And that was really important.
Yeah, to add to that, I think for me, my experience with coaching is the relationship with money. There's a lot more psychological aspects to its life in itself, more than just the numbers. Because you can give someone a financial plan, tell me, okay, this is what you got to do, this is what you got to target. But their actions speak otherwise. Their life speaks otherwise. And so that's how I differentiate coaching versus planning, is tagging along the journey with your client, really going through life with them. The journey is really together. I'm not superior to them, because at the end of the day, what I say is just say, hey, you could do this, but at the end of the day, it's up to you, because they have control of their money, not me.
Thank you all for that. So Leah, I want to continue with you for the next question. Now that we've heard more about what financial coaching is and how to describe it, what's specific to the Latino experience?
The Latino experience. I love it. But there's a lot of, how do I break this apart? So with the Latino experience, there's a lot of scarcity, a lot of struggle, a lot of other feelings towards money, because we have a financial system that unfortunately has not been in favor of people of color. Access to banking, access to building credit. These are just basic things that most people have. A lot of Latino community don't even have it, because they fear the financial system. So in my experience with primarily working with the Latinx community, we have to deconstruct our relationship with money and why we fear the financial system. Why do we fear even working with advisors as well? Because a lot of people go to coaching because they didn't have the best experience with an advisor, because they're like, actually, I can't help you. You don't have enough assets to work with me. So then they go to coaching, because coaching, one, tends to be a little more affordable than financial planning. And second of all, there's one-on-one communication and direction and support. And a lot of my work is tied to breaking down their fears and that lack of creating wealth for themselves. They feel like they can't because they're Latino, or they grew up in a different socioeconomic background. So it's really deconstructing, hey, you can attain all these things, and these are the tools that are accessible to you. Maybe we have to change your bank. Maybe we have to get you to, open a specific credit card that favors ITIN versus social security numbers, because they might be immigrants. There's different experiences for every client, whether it's, their money hoarding. A lot of Latinos love to hoard money in fear of any financial collapse. They're like, okay, I got money under the mattress, right? But we have to kind of deconstruct all of their fears and things that we just naturally do because the financial system hasn't been in our favor. So from my experience, there's a lot of emotional support in this. And obviously I'm not a therapist. So if there's anything above my pay grade, it's like, go to therapy. That's where you're gonna go. But for me, it's more of, okay, like, I'm gonna give you the power and the tools and the education that you probably didn't learn in high school, that you didn't learn by your parents. And now as adults, they're struggling with credit card debt, or even struggling to even look at their budget or their paychecks, because again, no one taught them the basics of the financial knowledge. Because if you go to a financial planner, they kind of already expect you to kind of know these certain things, to look at your paycheck, to check your 401k and adjust your 401k according to your, amount of years, your risk tolerance, etc. But for the Latino community, we don't really know that. So it's really breaking down the basic stuff that we should have learned automatically in high school, and creating a relationship with money that's not fearful, that is, hey, we have control, that no one's going to take it away from us. That, a lot of people fear immigration because, like, they fear immigration with their money. They think that, okay, if I open a bank account, and the immigration is going to come for me. And we have to remove a lot of those fears, and give them the education and the tools so that they can create their own wealth. And it really just starts with the basics of banking, saving, budgeting, building credit, etc.
Thank you, Leah. We have a question from the audience from Luis Barajas. Luis, great to see you here. Yes, please let us know one thing.
Hey, Saundra. Hey, guys. So I want to add to Leah, what happened was years ago, right? A lot of the fears that Leah was talking about, people used to tell me that, it was due to lack of financial literacy. So when I did this, right, I was working with multi-millionaire and billionaire clients, and then I go back to the Barrio in East LA. This is back in the 90. And just for the young kids, there was no internet in the 90, and there was no financial literacy, and there was no books. So they all told us it was all about lack of financial literacy. And as some of you know, right, I'm one of the first, if not the first, Latino CFP. So I went back to go provide financial literacy. And then I said, oh, shoot. So I thought that by providing education and knowledge, that the fears would go away because that's what they lacked. Yet, adding to Leah's stuff, it was their cultural limiting beliefs. It was their stories. It was the socioeconomic, issues that really nothing would have tapped into it. Like Saundra and I, I was part of Coach U, actually, Saundra, back in the 80s as well, with Thomas Leonard. So I did a lot of coaching in the body around the beliefs and the visions and the values and everything else, right? Because financial literacy, to this day, people come to me and said, there's not a lot of there's too much financial literacy now. And it's not changing. In fact, things are getting worse. And so to me, that's why the financial life coaching I was doing back in the 90s was making a difference, but none of the financial literacy was making a difference. And so the question that I'll throw back at you, and you can answer whenever you want to do it, is at what point, though, is there the blending of, even though I've got to convert my client, I've got to change his beliefs and habits and behaviors and whatever, so he can get to the next point or understanding, I still have to take care of the client. If they don't have insurance, I'm still going to talk to the guy, the husband, about the Sancho syndrome, about El Sancho, and I'm still going to get him to get the insurance. I'm still going to do the estate plan, because it can take us sometimes years to change people and their behaviors and habits, or months or whatever, but we need to do stuff now. So something I'll let you guys address, I'm just going to jump off again, but how do you guys handle those sometimes needs that are right here and now, plus the coaching that has to be done, but that is where people take shortcuts. Yeah, let's talk about your drugs and then go into the stuff. I can get the other stuff done in a day, but the coaching is going to take some time, and you got to get the client committed to that. So I'd like for the coaches to answer that in between whenever they're ready to answer it. So.
Thank you, Luis. This is a great question. So Diana, I was going to go to you for the next question. We can cover that, or Leah, Saundra, or Diana, anyone want to cover what Luis just asked?
So I'm going to have to go godmother on Luis here, because he's right. And the first thing we learn as coaches is that we do not get people to do anything. So everybody say it with me. We do not get people to do anything. They will do that which they are inspired and motivated to do. And so the switch that we have to flip as professionals is being transparent and honest. So when I'm working with people, Louis, the way that I deal with exactly what you're just talking about is, number one, I'm real clear about where they are. We're real clear about where they have energy towards a topic. I can have someone, when we look at the trans-theoretical model of change, how do people change? What inspires change? I may have someone who's completely ready to save, but not ready to check their credit score, right? And so I've got to follow their energy. And if there is something that's pressing, and this is where coaching and financial coaching are very different. And this part's important, y'all, because a lot of times, and this is the reason, like Coach U and CTI and all of those other places, the reason I tell financial professionals, the reason I built what I built with the coach training is that going to a class that tells you your client is whole, resourceful, and complete, and everything that they need to know, they know. That's just not how it is when it comes to financial topics. Right? When it comes to financial topics, they may see a light at the end of the tunnel, and I may know it's a train and they don't. And so I've got to keep my eye on the train and that long-term thing. My first coaching client, it took us 5 years to get a budget, 5 years, because she kept having emergencies in Ann Taylor. Right? So I had to work with her around what has to happen now. And what is this longer issue? But Louis, honestly, I do that by complete transparency and honesty, and I lay it out in front of them of, this is what I'm seeing. These are the things that I think can harm you. These are the things that I think are imminent. What happens when you look at this list? And then it's back on them. I can't get them to do anything, but I can show them. I can let them know what I can do to support them. And then this is where financial planners struggle, because accountability is the point of coaching. Accountability is the point. Everything else that we do, it's about accountability. And that's what's a little different, because when people are CFPs, you're used to being the one that's giving. You're giving them the plan, you're giving them advice, and either the client does it or they don't. You know, and so then what happens, and to Leah's point earlier, a lot of people feel, and this is one of the downsides of my experience, is people think that coaching is for poor and low and moderate income clients, and that financial planning and therapy, that's for the wealthy folks, but the poor folks, counseling, education, and coaching, that's it. And coaching is for everyone, because what happens literally right now, my CFP colleagues can be working with a client for 20 years. Everything is all cool as long as the client's got their money and their investment returns are cool and everything. Let that client retire and they're outpacing their safe withdrawal rate. Then they want to call me. Saundra, can you talk to this client? I don't know what to do with them. Well, yeah, no, you don't know. You know why you don't know? Because for 20 years, you've been working on their assets and not working on how they manage their emotional aspects of money. And so, yeah, you're right, Louis, it's all of it. It's all of it. And so as the coach, who also is a financial professional, I have to make sure that I'm always remembering to follow their energy and keep my eye on the ball so that I can help them keep their eye on it. And I'm transparent, I'm honest with them. You know, but a lot of financial planners want to sugarcoat it and they don't want to come down too hard. And you know, I understand it, but that's where the harm is for the client, because no one is holding them. Yeah, that's an excellent book, The Speed of Trust. So those are the things that I would say about it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Saundra. Deanna, do you want to say anything about that? We can also move on to your question that I want to ask you about group coaching, because oftentimes we think about coaching on an individual level, but there's also group coaching that can happen. But this is such a ripe conversation. We can also continue on with this.
I'll answer the group coaching, and then I'll also talk about how I built in, what do you do when a client has an emergency that I see as a financial planner, but then they're not excited about working on that, right? So for me, what's really amazing about group coaching is that often when clients come to talk to a CFP, to a coach, to anybody who's an expert, they'll put the expert up here and themselves down here. Even if we don't mean to, the client will automatically do that. And I know that I've done that with nutritionists and with personal trainers. I remember walking away from a nutritionist office thinking like, yeah, she's a nutritionist though. Whatever she tells me to do, it's probably like too out there. It's too, like, who studies money, right? So I sometimes think clients have that kind of feeling about us as planners. However, when you're in a group and you're seeing your peers take action, your peers improve, especially people who have a similar profile than you, like if they're money avoidant, if they come from a historically oppressed background, that is so much more empowering. That is the power of group coaching. Plus, the accountability is amongst themselves, and they end up practicing with each other how to have those difficult money conversations. What is different and what I've been learning in this past year that I've been doing group coaching is that as a one-on-one financial planner, I could see where the big red like emergency signs were. And as a group coach, I don't really get to see that. So what I do instead is I have clients really focus on where their energy is, right? To use Saundra's words. And I have this outline of like all of the money areas in your life that you need to keep in mind. So we keep going back to the outline so that whenever their big emergency thing where they have their energy is taken care of, they still have the outline to continue to work on. There's also a time constraint on the coaching, on the group coaching, right? It's not forever. So it's like, okay, you signed up for this program. It's 6 months long. Let's make sure that we cover everything here. And again, the accountability that they have with each other. Sorry, the dove. Mochi wants to add something to the conversation. So I'm going to mute myself. And I have a Q&A on group coaching that I'm going to drop the link in here. So if you want to have a further conversation, we can have it here, but you can also come to the session this Thursday.
Thank you, Diana. That was great. I want to come back to Luis's question about the difference between financial coaching and financial therapy. And we can add on other types of services or modalities and ways of engaging with clients on that spectrum that Saundra mentioned. I want to bring this question to Saundra. How would you describe the difference between financial counseling, financial therapy, or financial planning when it comes to coaching?
Thank you. So this actually goes back to when Lewis and I first met. Like I mentioned, Lewis was my first mentor in this field. He was one of the first people who believed in what I was thinking about doing, what I wanted to do. I was in the nonprofit sector for 30 years before I became a financial planner. And one of the reasons that that's important is that I understood that it didn't matter what else we did in the nonprofit sector. We could help people get houses, we could help them get higher education, we could help them start businesses, but unless they understood their personal finance choices, nothing was going to change. And so I too went down the financial literacy road. I watched Lewis at a CFP meeting with a room packed, like stacked to the gill, standing room only, doing education that mattered, right? Education that had impact. And so in about 2007, I wrote out what I called the continuum of financial well-being. And it started with education being that transfer of information. Do you know what you need to know in order to make good financial decisions, right? Do you understand how systems work? Do you understand your own perspectives about money? And so that financial education, do you know what you need to know? Understanding that knowing better doesn't mean doing better. Right? So how do we move from knowing better to doing better? And then there's financial counseling. The AFCPE is one organization. I see Melody has the CFEI. That's another education certification. Counseling is in general in the US, it's not counseling in the form of therapy. It's budget counseling, housing counseling, credit counseling. And then there are like AFC, CFEIs who do comprehensive counseling. Counselors in general are there's going to be some information transfer as well, but they also may help you on a specific topic. They may even do some of the work for you, right? So I've seen counselors create a budget for a client. And then there's coaching. Now with coaching, my focus is on what are you believing? Where is that belief sitting? And how is it getting in the way of what you say matters most to you? So I'm looking at the transformation of the human. The human then deals with their financial situation. So I focus on the human focuses on their situation. Now, this is where financial coaching is different than life coaching. As a financial coach, I'm going to help them navigate what they do with their financial situation, but I'm not going to take care of it for them. I don't do budgets for people. I don't pull credit for people. I don't do any of that. I don't decide where they go. I don't decide how they get there. We do that in partnership and we co-create the plan. Financial planners, y'all know what y'all do. I don't need to tell you this. Financial therapy is, and I'm gonna use some specific language. What is holding you back? What is it that gets in the way? Where does it come from? And we can take something that's a very innocuous sounding question and distinguish whether it should be planning, coaching, or therapy, right? So how many of you have asked a client, what is your first money memory? Yeah, many of us have. Now, if the answer to that is, I remember just not knowing how money worked. I remember not, right? So that's an information, that's a knowledge thing, right? They might say, I had one young woman say, I remember asking my dad how much money he made and he slapped me, right? So what do you think happened for her? So if that is the thing that is keeping her from being able to say, the other thing might be, my first money memory was I had a financial goal and I saved up all of my money, I saved up all of my allowance and I went and got it, right? So there's all of these different ways that that one question can be answered. And who that person might need to work with, we can get a clue from that. A financial therapist is going to understand, how did you get here? How did you become a hoarder? How did you become an oversaver? How did you become an overspender, right? And what in your past do we have to deal with for you to be able to go forward? As a coach, I might understand that something happened back there, but that's not my job. My job is forward. What do you need to know about yourself in order to move forward? What do you have to think about yourself in order to move forward? What information do you need in order to move forward? If a client cannot be forward thinking, I know, as Leah said, I'm above my pay grade, right? And as a founding member of the Financial Therapy Association, it's really important that people understand that therapy is really working on the past behaviors that created the current situation. Coaching will gather some information and then we move forward, right? So what happened for you when your dad had that reaction? You know, I just can't even talk about it. Ding, 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 ding. Right? If the person says, well, I say, what happened when your dad had that reaction? They say, you know what? It really inspired me to keep moving forward, right? Now we're having a coaching conversation. But what they say lets me know where we're going to go. I'm going to leave the rest of this to Leah because she wants to talk about couples. So hit us, Leah.
Oh, I just put in the chat. What I've experienced as well is financial therapy really benefits with couples as well, because if I have a session with a couple, if they've never had a conversation around money together and we start having it and they start fighting or they start discussing things that are, again, above my pay grade, I'm like, yeah, you gotta go to therapy. That's not like, I can help you with actual steps to move forward, but if you guys can't even get to those steps, that is not my job to help you guys build a loving relationship around money together. So financial therapy as well can really help couples talk about that. I know as financial planners, you have a lot of couples coming to y'all, right? And maybe they've never really seen each other's financial situation. Maybe they've never explored what they want to do with retirement. And then they start, no, I want to go travel the world at retirement, or I want to, stay home and keep it chill at home. And then they start fighting because their plans are different, right? And sometimes that's, again, above your pay grade. So financial therapy can help in really dissecting those feelings and having those conversations. Because even with clients that I have one-on-one, they haven't ask their partner about their experience with money or what they want to do with their finances together. And they've been married, and all of a sudden they tell me, oh yeah, I've never had that conversation with them. I'm like, girl, you gotta start having those conversations, And so that's where financial therapy can really tie to that, because again, I am not an expert about their psychological past. That is not my job. My job is to help them move forward, like Saundra was saying, and identifying a habits, systems for them to move forward. That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to help them, understand that past happened. We give a moment for that. We appreciate, the struggle or the happiness that they had around money. But then we got to move forward and saying, okay, so what are your spending routines? What do you do with when you receive your first paycheck? What are the steps that you're taking for yourself, right? To benefit your future financial goals in 3 months, 6 months, a year. Because some people don't even look past their paycheck. They get their paycheck, they blow it, and they don't really look at their future. And that's where I'm here to kind of really, break down, what are you working towards? Why do you even get a paycheck? And especially since I work with the Latinx community, we're kind of heads down on the grind. We're always grinding, working. And so it's really taking a step back and being, okay, what are you doing for yourself? Why are you working? What's the motive here? And I think like Luis Barajas was saying as well, like when they need insurance, when they need to start thinking about when they're trying to have children and add that to the plan. And they're like, okay, well, I need to start thinking about, for example, I get married. They're like, okay, I have kids. I want to talk about my estate. Okay, well, that's where I kind of recommend them to financial planner. Okay, you guys are accumulating assets now. Again, above my pay grade, right? I'm not going to create a financial plan for you. That's where I recommend trusted financial planners, and I kind of start bringing them into the conversation, have them set up meetings, kind of break it down with the financial planner. Hey, this is my experience with them as I've been coaching them. These are the things that they struggle with, and these are the things that they want to attain that is now something that I can't help them with. So there you go. It's your time to take care of them. And that's how we also kind of transition that relationship from financial coach to financial planner.
Thank you, Leah. Deanna, did you want to share something about that?
Yeah, and well, I as a registered life planner, right, through the Kinder Institute, you do go through some of looking at people's money past, money experiences. One of the things that I have people go through is look at their money history. What are their first few memories? And it's very much a self-exploration exercise. They do it on their own time. We don't really look at it ourselves, but from there, when we do have group conversations, sometimes they'll say something that it's like, okay, this is actually something you need to take to have a deeper conversation on, right? And I'd love to hear, Leah and Saundra, how do you navigate? How do you know when it's time? And like because for me, it's really important to know where we're coming from, for clients to know where they're coming from, so that they understand what patterns are they repeating, what patterns may they be stuck in.
Yeah. So I want to say two things. First, while therapy can be great for couples, it doesn't always have to be therapy, right? An effective coach, a well-trained coach, a practiced and experienced coach can facilitate conversations with couples toward a shared vision, right? And so we want to make sure that, and there are many therapists, like Sonia Luder is one of them. She's doing a lot of work with couples right now. The word financial therapist has really kind of become a lot like financial planner. Anybody can put out a shingle and call themselves a financial therapist. When I say financial therapist, I mean someone who is actually a therapist, LMFT, licensed family marriage therapist, licensed clinical social workers, people with a Psych D, or they are actually therapists and they are experts in financial content. AFC, CFP, those kinds of things. So I want to say, so when I say financial therapist, that's what I mean. There are other people who have moderate levels of expertise that refer to themselves as financial therapist. I hold a different perspective. So as a coach, and I'm a master coach, I work with people who are in couples who have different perspectives. And as long as I can facilitate that conversation, and I think the Kinder group does the same thing, as long as I can facilitate that conversation without being pulled into, oh, I'm going to help the husband fix the wife, or help the wife fix the other wife, or whatever situation we've got going on, right? As long as I can hold that, and we can navigate toward a shared vision. I'll use tools like the Wheel of Life. I'll use money habitudes. I'll use those kinds of things to help explore the conversation so that the couple can see where they are different. And to Leah's point, sometimes the only financial conversation they've ever had is with me. Right? They don't talk about it with each other at all. And so I just, I want to expand the idea that financial planners, you all are dealing with clients all the time. So you might just need to build that facilitation skill, if you don't already have it, to navigate what can be really tough conversations. A lot of financial planners, in my experience, have this notion that these conversations are too touchy-feely for our clients, or maybe too touchy-feely for you. And I would contend, you know, these are fundamental conversations that impact implementation. Right? Dave Yeske, one of our colleagues, he asked a question, and I really appreciate it, because he'll say, he'll ask a group of financial planners, how many times has your plan blown up because of market behavior? And nobody raises their hand. And then he'll say, how many times has the plan blown up because of client behavior? And I'm sure you can imagine what happens then. Right? Every hand in the room goes up. And so the more skills that you can have, that Deanna and Leah and Lewis have mentioned, right, that we're talking about, the more able you will be to navigate whatever shows up with your clients. And that's really what we're talking about. You as professionals being resourced enough that you can navigate everything from education, counseling, coaching, planning, and therapy. Sometimes it'll be a referral. Sometimes you'll choose to build your own skills. For me, I chose to build my own skills. Sometimes you might say, hey, well, look, you know, Leah's over there. She'll be able to help some folks that I really don't have the bandwidth, or I don't have the energy to do this work with. Sending them to Deanna for a group session might be the thing that's going to help move them from thinking to action. So I would say, you know, to all of this conversation about how do we make this decision and how do we navigate these things, start with you. Start with you. What makes your heart beat fast about the work that you do? Is it the numbers? If so, that's okay. You don't have to be an expert in the psychology of financial planning to be great at what you do. You just want to make sure you have access to people who can do the parts that you're not interested in doing. So that's all I wanted to say. And Deanna, tell me again, I'm sorry, sweetheart, is there something else you wanted me to respond to, or can we move on?
I guess, no, you answered it right now, because the question was like, when we're looking at, if we're asking clients to look at their past, because it's helpful, right? Especially if they're stuck in the loop. But what you just said right there about having presence as we are with clients. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. We're getting a lot of questions about collaboration and models for collaboration, and not just collaboration between financial planners and financial coaches, but 2 questions in the chat were around a similar topic of, is there a place for financial planners to wear a coaching hat and include that in their coaching relationship, or client relationship, I should say? And how do you weave coaching into financial planning when clients don't know they're receiving coaching or haven't signed up for coaching? There's a lot of questions in there, but I think the panelists are going to have some responses. Deanna, do you want to start with that? Leah, any one of you? Because I know Saundra's going to respond.
I want to start with that one. Is there a place for a financial planner to wear a coaching hat? There definitely is. For the registered life planner training, right? That training is specifically for financial planners, or most of the people that have gone through that training is for financial planners. And what it taught me was how to listen more effectively. That's a lot of what coaching is. And it's not just listening to the person's story, but listening to the emotion underneath it. I remember I had an experience with a client who, she was widowed. She'd been widowed a couple of years. And she was telling us about some renovations that she had to do to the house. And she paused and said, these are things that, I forget her ex-husband's or her deceased husband's name was, but she said this is something that Joe used to take care of. And the way that she said it, you could tell like she needed a little bit of grief. She needed to be seen a little bit, then a little bit of tenderness, right? And my colleague said, "That's nice." And like, like, whoa, did you not see this? Did you not see this client needing a little bit of support, needing you to slow down? That's what coaching training taught me to do. And I already had a love of doing that. I very much see myself as being part of the helping profession, to use how Elizabeth Duton describes financial planning. So there's definitely, and I think it's going back to what Saundra had said earlier, if you love the numbers, then love the numbers. But if you love the relationship with people, growing your skills in this area will make you more effective. And it'll also help you know, where do I need to cut the line? Where does a client actually need more support that I'm able to provide them? Especially if the client is not a $10 million client who's paying you a fee. That's at the $10 million level, right? As a financial planner, that was hard sometimes when a client needed more attention than the firm I worked for could actually provide in a way that made sense for the way the firm was set up. Right. That's where sometimes it gets into collaboration, because I never wanted to walk away from a client conversation shortchanging them on what they needed. And at the same time, there's only so many hours in the day.
Leah or Saundra, either of you want to take this question too?
I think as someone who's solely been a coach, I'm not a financial planner. I'm studying, but I'm not a financial planner. I think coaching is really, I did coaching because I found myself wanting to pursue a career in financial planning, but not serving my community. I didn't find any place that I wanted to work for. They were not going to cater to my specific community, which is the Latinx or queer community. So coaching was something where I could relate to somebody, where I could tell them my experience and be like, I see you, I hear you, I know what you're going through, and this is how we're going to move forward, right? And getting that, whatever, trying to buy their first car, trying to build their credit back up, or even start building credit because their parents told them that building credit was bad, and these are, limiting beliefs that, culturally, like especially the Latino community has. But when I think about financial planning, I don't, I never heard these conversations. I worked for a wealth manager for one point, and I never heard them talk about, okay, well, I'm struggling here, can we talk about that? It was really just money talk. Like, okay, these are your assets, these are what we're doing, this is a plan, this is a strategy. You good? We're good, right? Great meeting. And so it's really getting emotional, really getting deep in those feelings and hearing them. Like, there's a lot of listening, a lot of nodding, a lot of I understand, I hear you, I see you. And like Diana was saying, you might not have enough time to do all that, right? You might not have the capacity to emotionally be there for them. And that's where you collaborate, where you be like, I think you would benefit from coaching, or I think you would benefit from talking to X person, right? And especially if you want to implement this into your practice, this is something where if I were to work with a financial planner, I just want them to see me, right? I want them to know that money is a tough conversation to have, and I'm coming here with vulnerability. I'm coming here for your support. I'm coming here for you to look at me and be like, no, we can create something that you're, based on the numbers, you can have it. But emotionally, if you feel like, hey, hey, going to the store, going to a Nordstrom is your weakness, and they keep doing that, keep overspending on certain things so they don't meet their financial goals or their financial plan because certain things happen, emergencies happen, there's things that you can have these conversations. Hey, let's dissect that a little bit. What's been going on? You don't have to get into the nitty gritty. You don't have to create them a whole spending plan. No, just bring it to their attention. Hey, I've been noticing this. This is, we haven't been meeting expectations on these certain things. Let's talk about it real quick and see if we can create a plan to change the scenario. An actionable item. I'll check in with you in the next meeting and see how we've done after a few months. And you don't have to send them to a coach if it's just, minor things that you've been noticing. You can just bring it to their attention, because then they know you're paying attention to them. You're paying attention to what they're saying. So that's also something that you can integrate, just listening and, noticing the little things that they say. But I really do think financial coaching and planning is so correlated, because there's only so much I can do once my client has, they start buying their first property, their second property, start having kids, they're starting to really, their 401k is growing, they started a new tech company and they have stock options and all these things. Okay, above my pay grade. So that's where my relationship with financial planners is really important. Where I can be like, I think it's time to make this investment into yourself. It might be scary, but I'm giving you to a trusted, certified advisor who can take the next step for your financial plan, so you can build what I call riqueza, wealth. Because a lot of people, especially Mike, who I serve, they want generational wealth. This is the first time they've had their first tech job or first corporate career or first 401k in their life, in their generation, and they're trying to multiply that. And so I think hand in hand, we can really collaborate, or even you can incorporate just being there for your client emotionally a little bit to implement that coaching.
I'm coming for you, Leah. I'm coming, I'm recruiting you for Golden Gate. I just first want to acknowledge that literally when I joined this field, the only person who was having this kind of conversation for Black and Brown folks is sitting in the top left box. And I keep saying that because I really want you all to hear it. I took George Kinder's course when I first, literally in 2005. What I learned about that course was it was about teaching white people how to care about their clients. That's the bottom line. It really was about teaching people, and it was all white folks and me. So you can imagine how that went. And I don't say it to demean it. I say it because I came into this profession already having a heart for my people. Just like Leah, I was determined that I was not going to go into a wealth management firm and help white folks get richer. I was going to take what people in the CFP world knew about money into the Black community. And there were two people, Tim Coaches and Luis Barajas. Tim Coaches said to me, Saundra, what you're talking about is turning need into demand. That's what you're going to have to do. Now, that's for the low income, moderate income side of my work. The other side, and I want to point this out when we talk about both Catherine's question and I can't remember the other gentleman who had a similar question, Andrew. So as a personal financial planner, first of all, I believe all people need and deserve access to comprehensive financial planning, irrespective of their income and their wealth. So even though I coach, I never try to take the place of a comprehensive financial planner, right? What you all do is the work of the gods, right? And so I think that's really important. Listening is key. So what both Deanna and Leah said is crucial. And I would add, listening with a beginner's mind. It doesn't matter how many times you've heard it. You're hearing it from this person for the very first time. It doesn't matter what you think you know. You're hearing it from this person and you're hearing their perspective. You may have gone through the exact same thing, but you don't feel like they feel. You don't know how they feel. So don't trivialize their personal experience because you think you're an expert. So how can financial planners integrate coaching? You can integrate it in having real discovery. Often financial planners call their discovery their first meeting. That's data gathering. Tell the truth, shame the devil. Y'all ain't doing discovery, you're doing data gathering, okay? Discovery is tell me who you are. Tell me what makes your heart beat fast. Tell me what you're looking for. Tell me what is going to make this a successful engagement for you. Tell me what's going to keep you motivated toward your desired outcome when you and I are not in the same room. What do I need to know about you to be able to line up this plan in a way that it feels compelling for you, right? That's discovery. It is not what's in your 401k. It's not how much do you spend? How does your family respond to it? It's not that. I'm not saying don't get the data. I'm saying don't confuse it with discovery. So I'm suggesting that financial planners have a discovery session that is truly discovery. Get to know that human. Listen with a beginner's mind without making assumptions. Don't think that, oh, because you said this, it means this. No, if you hear something, so tell me, what does that mean to you? What does it mean to you that you have a spending problem? What does it mean to you that you are trying to please your extended family? Tell me about that, right? So that you can understand how they interpret this information that they're giving you. Then set up accountability on the front end. I love that Deanna does it in groups, but you all may not be able to do that. You may not have peers that can help each other. For those of you who are working with very wealthy clients, chances are your clients ain't gonna sit around in a circle and talk about what's happening in their financial lives. So you have to be their accountability partner. And so you ask the question, so look, I know that your day-to-day spending, may not feel like an important aspect of your long-term wealth. What I'm wondering is, as life changes and you're no longer working and your income is different, what adjustments do you think will be important to you? How will you be able to navigate these long-term changes that are coming? What are the strengths that you have that we can build on, right? So we want to set up accountability on the front end so that they know that it's coming. Don't wait until they're a non-compliant client and you want to fire them. That's not cool. Because then you have to check your technique. It's easy to look at the client, oh, well, the client ain't doing this and the client ain't doing that. It's easy to do that. It's easy to blame them. But where you been? Where you been in all this? Because you've been getting paid. You've been getting paid. You ain't said nothing while they were paying you. And now you want to fire them when they ain't doing what you tell them to do. So what's your role? Right? And so that's what we have to look at if we're going to truly be that helping profession, right? Think about when you go to a physician. Think about when you go to any person whose their sole commitment is your health, right? I'm not talking about the industry of medical. So empathy. Good coaching sits with clients through the storm. We sit with them through the storm, even if we don't have an answer. The other thing I want to add is that coaching is not about empowering them. They already have their power. Coaching is about recognizing your client's power and shepherding that with them so that they can do the things that they say they want to do. All right, I'm gonna shut up because I've been talking a lot, but I just needed to get that out. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, panelists. Thank you so much. And thank you for those questions, audience. As we start wrapping up, I have two other quick questions. The first one is for Deanna, and then the last one is going to be for all the panelists. So Deanna, how can someone find a financial coach if they're looking to work with one as a coaching client, or if a financial planner would like to refer a client for financial coaching? Where can you find one?
I'm going to plug Saundra's school, right? So the financial fitness coach is a great place to go and find someone who's got the coach training and also has finance expertise. And also on social media, you can look for people, you can find, you can see who aligns with the way that you as a financial planner work with clients, and that'll make it an easier introduction for the client, right? So if you want to start building those relationships, start connecting with other financial coaches. You have 3 of us here, and start the conversation. Thanks, Phuong.
Thank you. And Deanna, we can continue with you because I want to ask everyone on the panel, how can audience members learn more from each of you after today's panel?
Yeah, I'm dropping my website on the chat, allthecolors.net.network. That's a great place to learn more about what I do. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm having a Q&A specifically for my group coaching on Thursday, and you can also find me on social media.
Saundra, how about you? Oh, Leah, please open up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'm also a creator and I talk money on social media. So you can find me, my personal content at the Latina Wealth Activist on TikTok and Instagram, but also I have my own coaching practice that I guess a collective, and I'll put that in the chat.
And Saundra, how about you?
So I am the director of programs at Golden Gate University. I teach coaching skills for financial planners there. It's an amazing program. Elizabeth Jatan, Rick Kaler. We do a lot of work around advanced life planning, and that's what this is all about. And then there's also financial coaching foundations. That is the core piece of the FFC, the Financial Fitness Coach Program. So those are the places you can find me. And then I also teach a mindfulness course. Thank you, Virginia. I teach mindfulness for financial planners as well. Self-compassion, how do we navigate those kinds of things so that we can be better for ourselves, our families, and our clients.
Thank you. Thank you to all of our panelists. This was such an incredible panel. I love that this was recorded for folks who couldn't come, but I'll definitely be rewatching this, definitely, to review all of the amazing responses. And our participants today, you were excellent, sending me questions, sending me the things that resonated with you. I'm so glad we were together today, and I really appreciate it. So for those of you that want to pop off, you definitely can. And I want to make sure that we respect the time from our panelists. And so thank you to everybody.
Yeah, thank you. This is such a treat to have this conversation, and thank you, everyone.
Can I make
Yes,
one?
muchas gracias.
Can I mention one thing that Saundra? So because of when Saundra met me, I had, like I said, worked with really wealthy people and went back to the bar. I mean, back into Boyle Heights. That's where I opened up my office. I wasn't there doing pro bono work. I was there actually in that community. And you take on a social kind of welfare kind of mindset. And I was really struggling for years. And then Saundra told me something that changed my entire life, which she looked at me and she grabbed my hands and she said, don't be a role model for struggle. And I will share with you that, you know, you meet people come into your life. Maybe she came into my life to tell me that, but because a lot of the people who love coaching are working with some clients, maybe who don't have a lot of money or who have a big heart and don't want to out there, are not so focused on selling products, but I'm creating not success, but significance, right? But significance. And so we get caught up in that trap. So I will share what she told me, which was that I've actually told a whole bunch of other people that I've mentored. And I always give Saundra, I know she probably took it from somebody, but it's okay. She said it enough times. I've said enough times that I'll give her the credit to not be a role model for struggle. So yeah, I appreciate Saundra. She's been my sister from another mister for, I think, longer than some of you do before we were born on this call. So thank you, Saundra, and thank you, Diana and Phuong and Leah for today. I think it's one of the best sessions we've ever had here. So that was fantastic.
And Louis, don't these young folks give you some energy here? Deanna and Leah, I'm so proud of you both. So very proud of you both. Glad to see you doing it.
Yeah, very good.
Muchas gracias.
All right, guys. I'm jumping up. Bye-bye.
All right. Yeah, my website is doing something funky. Try it again.